Okay, so, continuing through the backlog of games I've missed, Portal is yet another title that I didn't get around to when it first came out. You ever have a game that you think looks great, but forget it exists 2 minutes later? That was Portal for me. I would randomly be reminded of it, talk about how I needed to play it, and then forget all about it until the next time it came up. But $1 sale for Portal? It was finally time. Yeah, it took setting a phone reminder and a text message to finally remember to get the game, but at least it finally happened. Seriously, I don't know why the universe fought me so hard about playing this game. While the game probably doesn't need an introduction, as there are North Sentinel Island natives that have played the game before me, Portal is an FPS puzzle game. Something you have to understand is how popular the FPS genre was getting at the time. I remember thinking about how everyone was trying to slam out an FPS as quick as possible to chase the trend, and how oversaturated the market was. Then seeing Portal, and thinking how unique of a premise this game was compared to all the other options at the time. Instead of killing stuff, you are given a gun that shoots portals, one blue and one orange, each representing the opposite end of the portal's gateways. Loading into the game, my first impression is how impressed I am at how well the graphics have aged. Or maybe even more accurately, haven't aged. While I begrudgingly say this, it really is hard to argue with the lasting aesthetic influence of Apple's early 2K's design. The white plastic on technology and robots really does have a clean look that has held up after all these years. And okay, if we are really looking for flaws, you can see the textures are a little basic or lower res, and a character model is a little plain, or the world is pretty sparsely populated by objects. Although, I can forgive the object count, as it does give a slight uneasiness to the game, where it feels like the humans were once there, but also hints at some time having passed. Still, I think the game looks great. The next big thing that I noticed was the controls. The game doesn't have a run button. I'm sure Portal was purposely built excluding this function, but it was jarring how foreign this felt. I've been trained since Super Mario Bros. That you hold run before jumping to give yourself just a little bit of extra forward momentum to clear gaps. And now you are removing that safety net from me? While needless to say, the fact I am bringing this up means I missed quite a few jumps that I should have easily made because of misjudging how far away I was. I also felt like corners of objects could be hard to navigate, and hugging them led to my movement being halted. While this isn't game-breaking, and even happens in newer games, the corner problem did lead to somewhat stiffer movement than I was used to. The gameplay, though, is absolutely phenomenal. The two-portal idea is such a simple concept to use, yet it allows for so many different situations and puzzles. Okay, I'm going to be honest here. I actually had a really hard time wrapping my head around the portals. I understood the whole, this side is where you come out part of the portal, but the amount of overthinking, where to place the entrance side, would have been some mixture of comical and frustrating to watch from another person's perspective. I would have to put portals parallel to where I wanted to go, because I didn't have the spatial awareness of being off axis. Wanted to come out of a ceiling, the other side had to go on the floor for me. Didn't matter if there was a wall directly adjacent to where I was standing. Part of the problem came from the fact that I assumed the physics of Portal were more comparable to MC Escher's work, or the two portals were opposites. Let me attempt to explain. If I was to put an exit portal on the ceiling, then enter through a wall, when you would come out of the portal, the world would have rotated to make what was previously a wall the floor, and the original ceiling now a wall. Or, another problem I ran into was wanting to just be able to use only one side of a portal to just walk directly through a wall, and realizing I would have to approach the puzzle in a different way when that didn't work. Regardless of these mental barriers, I was eventually able to figure out all but two of the puzzles on my own. One of which, I didn't realize that was a switch. The other involves setting up two floor portals and using your momentum from the fall to catapult yourself through the other to a higher level. And admittingly, I doubt I would have figured that out without help. Another thing I can't get over was the sense of humor in this game. There is something so surreal about a lying AI robot. I can't quite put my finger on what made this stand out to me so much. Maybe it was breaking Asimov's laws of robotics, or the fact it wasn't particularly convincing with the lies, or maybe just how relentless it was trying to manipulate you, in a way that only an AI would be so oblivious of trust, or how ineffective the tactics become once the trust is broken. Then the projecting of the personality onto the weighted companion cube, an inanimate object that you are forced to discard, yet they make you feel like you are killing a loving, trusting, living thing. It is absurd how terrible I felt for a moment, before laughing at my connection to a block. I always thought the idea of a pet rock was ridiculous, yet here I am, sad about what happened to a block with hearts on it. Actually, it's a video game's rendition of a block with hearts on it. Oof. An emotional connection to a digital representation of an inanimate object. I think I might have to start getting out more. So I originally had a rant here about how stupid the whole "the cake is a lie" quote was, because I didn't see it until after GLaDOS actively started trying to kill me. But I realized going back and watching my footage, I missed the first iteration of the quote, because guess who put a portal over it? So I'm replacing this section to say it is actually a pretty clever hint. Now in my defense, I was distracted by the controls and realizing if I threw a block through the portal, I could actually hurt myself with it. But I do still want to mention how glad I am not hearing some iteration of that quote every single day anymore. Yes, people, you can overuse something clever to death. I guess this is the point I have to bring up how short the game was. Portal took me a little less than 4 hours to complete, and an entire hour of that can probably be attributed to being stumped on the 2 previously mentioned puzzles I struggled with. Now, I don't want to complain too much about the game's length. Puzzle games are hard to make. The best ones know how to introduce new and novel situations, while also have familiarity to the ideas as to be approachable, which is probably the hardest balancing act of any game genre. So yeah, this game's originality was easily on display, and instead of overly bloating the game with redundancies, it knew when to call it quits. Not to mention, watch the credits and see how small of a group worked on this game, compared to how long you have to sit through the credits for some of your favorite games. Portal definitely has a labor of love aspect that is commendable. That's my rational take. Ready for the overly judgmental one? So, I can't shake how this game feels unfinished. Yeah, the Portal's idea is awesome and unique, but between how empty the game is and how short, and let's be brutally honest, it almost lacking any true story, Portal is more of a proof of concept than a finished game. And to give an analogy, and this might just be my stomach talking, Portal is like prepping and cooking the perfect steak, then sitting down to eat it just to realize that you forgot to make any of the sides with it. Alright, regardless of my critiques, this game has absolutely held up magnificently. If you never experienced Portal for yourself, stop making excuses and just play it. This game feels as fresh today as it did 15 years ago. The only problem is, now I'm going to have to play Portal 2. One game off the list, another one added. Thanks for watching.
What's your point anyway? Survive from